resides within you. And I would suggest the next stage of human evolution. Humans are no longer trapped exclusively in thought. They're able to be connected with a transcendent dimension within themselves. And then thought can still operate beautifully, in fact, much more beautifully. It can create, participate in the creation. The universe loves to create, it seems. So, invite into your life that state of thoughtless awareness more and more. I've sometimes said, if you people have asked me in an interview, asked me once, what do you consider to be your greatest achievement in life? And I said, well, it's very simple. I don't think when I don't want to think. I don't have to think. And this is not ultimately, of course, not an achievement, nor would it get me a job if I put it in my resume. But I'm so grateful for being able to have been freed from what was for me and for many others too, this terrible burden of being trapped in an unhappy sense of self. It was always anxiously anticipating, regretfully looking back on this and that. Everything was problematic and one damn thing after another. Nothing ever went right. So free yourself. Sometimes thought may tell you, like, oh, to come to it now. Yes, you can do it now, to ask yourself, am I aware? Say, no, I have other things. No, you don't. Am I aware? Everybody has time for that. It only takes a second or two. Am I aware? Then you bring in little spaces into your daily lives, little spaciousnesses. And they might go a little longer, so that your daily life becomes interspersed with these little spaces, just one space. Little spaces come into your life, and then the personality, which otherwise had an enormous density and heaviness to it, becomes somewhat, I would almost say, transparent. It becomes transparent to the transcendent dimension that it shines through. That's sort of vital to become spacious. Invite the spaciousness into your life. And that's the ultimate, the real spiritual practice.
So, just to kind of rephrase that a little bit, thought is what divides us into subject and object. It's the movement of consciousness that creates this hallucination that the subject of experience and the object of experience are different entities when they're both actually activities of the total universe. And so it is in the spaciousness between thought and actually in the space between us right now. As you're looking at me, just turn your attention to the space. So in the Vedanta, this is Chit Akash. Chit means consciousness and Akash means infinite space. But when you think of infinite space, don't think of it as extending infinitely in all directions, because in actuality it is dimensionless. It is the activity of that infinite space, which is totally dimensionless, that is brimming forth right now into this experience of subject, object, all this. If you took away all the objects, even space would disappear. So the fundamental reality is totally formless. Tagore, in a beautiful poem, he says, in this playhouse of infinite forms, I got a glimpse of the formless, and so my life was blessed. Your life is blessed when you find yourself in the spaciousness of the formless, infinite, dimensionless consciousness in which the whole universe is born and in which the whole universe is dying right now to be reborn again in a new expression of itself. So invite the spaciousness. There's another question which is technical here. It's a philosophical question. I'm not sure you're familiar with. You are grounded in being. So, but the question is, what is qualia?
I don't know what that is.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a philosophical question. Qualia stands for quality of experience. It was made famous by David Chalmers, who was a philosopher of consciousness. So, qualia is a quality of consciousness. So, let me share with you what that is. Just close your eyes, or you don't even have to close your eyes, and think of a red rose. Do you see a picture? Where is that picture? It's a quality of experience, but if I went inside your brain, I would not see a red rose. Okay, so that's called a qualia, a quality of experience. And how is it made? It's made out of consciousness. Now, instead of thinking of a red rose, think of the love that you have for your significant other, or think of your baby and feel the love. So that's another qualia. Now, instead of thinking of something, look at this beautiful flower here. Look at these beautiful flowers here. Okay? So, is there a picture of beautiful flowers in your brain? No. What's in your brain? There are neural correlates. Where is this picture of the flower in the brain? Is it in the brain? There's no picture. I looked inside your brain. There's no flowers there, right? This is a collection of qualia created in your brain that, as human beings, we call it a flower. I have no idea what a honeybee calls this. In fact, the honeybee doesn't even look at this with the usual receptors that you and I look at it. The honeybee senses only ultraviolet. So what does this look like to a honeybee? We have no idea. So all experience is actually qualia. And a good way to remember this is sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. The acronym is SIFT, S-I-F-T. So everything you experience is a sensation. Sensation of touch, sound, taste, smell. And where are these sensations? In consciousness. What are they made of? They are excitations of consciousness, like the waves, or their images, or their feelings, emotions, or their thoughts. In fact, they are all thought-like. It is without thought we cannot have the experience of me and other. Would you agree? Can you hear?
No, okay. That brings me
But
to
you can still know what he's saying.
a question that often arises in mainstream science. There's still the firm belief that consciousness is an epiphenomenon of brain activity or byproduct of brain activity. Of course, there's undoubtedly a connection between the brain and consciousness. But you, this is a question I can ask you as a bridge between science and spirituality, and without taking up the rest of the evening with your answer, what do you say to those people who are completely conditioned by the mainstream belief that consciousness is a byproduct of the chemical soup or the molecular activity, whatever level you look at it, in the brain? I believe that's still what many scientists believe, isn't that so?
The brain, like any other material object, including your body, including what we experience in the world, is a process in consciousness. As perceived, as an object perceived out there. You know, I can't see my own brain. In fact, it's very interesting that the brain has no self-awareness. If I put a probe through it or a knife through it, the brain doesn't feel any pain. The brain has correlates of pain in the body. So if I pinch you here, you feel the pain here, but the correlate is somewhere there. Mm-hmm. So the brain, like any other physical object, is a process in consciousness, perceived as a physical object. Material objects are made up of what? Atoms. Atoms are made up of particles. What are particles made of? The best answer we have is nothing. They are probability waves in mathematical space. And where's that mathematical space? In consciousness. Right? Where else could it be? So what we call the brain as a perceived object, the only reason we know we have a brain is we can look at other brains, or we can look at our own brain on a CAT scan. Where is that experience happening? In consciousness. And when we say chemicals, that's names we've given to activities as human beings to observe experiences in consciousness. They are frozen snapshots of an activity in awareness that we label. This is a molecule. This is a subatomic particle. This is a probability wave. Where does that thought come from? It's in consciousness. And that's a human activity which has actually given us a lot of civilization. It has given us, the great architecture and music and dance and art and science, but it's also given us, because of subject-object split, it's given us atomic bombs and nuclear warfare and climate change and extinction of species and eco-destruction, and now risking our own extinction. The scientific age is only 500 years old. The agricultural age is 12,000 years old. Before that, hunter-gatherers. As hunter-gatherers, we didn't think of these things. Then something happened called the cognitive revolution. We started thinking about thinking. And then we have scientific age, which has brought this amazing civilization. But because it's based on an incomplete understanding of reality, which is subject-object split, we treat the universe as something out there, when in fact it's our extended body. The air is your breath. The rivers and waters and oceans are your circulation. The earth is recycling as your body. And stardust is the atoms that are right here. So we call this me, my body, and we say that's the universe. When in fact, they're both equally yours. You have a personal body, you have a universal body, and for perceptual experience or even biological experience, you need both. There's only one body. It's the body of the universe. Your personal body is an impermanent activity in an evolving activity of the universal body. And the moment you fall in love with that universal body, you will stop hurting it. Can we live in a world free from war, poverty, hunger, greed, and racism?
I believe we can, and we are moving in that direction. And it is dependent on the sufficient number of humans of being connected to what I call the transcendent dimension within themselves. Because it's only from there that you can have the necessary empathy not to inflict suffering on other life forms or on other humans. And it's only from there that you can have what is in some traditions called love, although that word could be misunderstood. Love is, the word that one could suggest is loving kindness, or an outflow of goodwill or benevolence to other people, to other life forms, people you meet. Unless you have that, I believe it was Confucius who suggested you're not even fully human unless your life exhibits these qualities, the outflow of benevolence and goodwill. And in order to have that, you need to have gone beyond a limited sense of identity that we could call egoic, that I've written about quite a bit, so I don't need to go into detail, but it's a state of ignorance of who you are and wanting to strengthen that state, delusory sense of identity of me as against others, needing to add things to who you are in order to feel yourself more complete, feeling threatened by others, needing even to make enemies so that your sense of self becomes more clearly defined. Nations do it, religions do it, little groups do it. They love their enemies because their enemies give them their sense of identity. It can happen on a personal level. It also happens a lot on a collective level. Religions, even within religions, the same different groups of religions, you identify with a collectivity that's us. Collective ego is, if there's anything more insane than the personal ego, is the collective ego. And it creates enormous havoc and suffering. This was to some extent happening, we can see it in Islam happening, even within Islam. They're creating all these separate entities that the others are not worthy to live. We've been there too. So it can be political, it's all egoic activities, complete lack of transcendence, complete lack of empathy, inability to feel your oneness with others, that the other is also human. So a prerequisite for a world that's free of all these things is for a sufficient number of humans to have access within themselves the transcendent dimension, which then, of course, the moment you access that, it affects the way in which you interact with others and how you respond to others. And that's the only way to changing the world, or sanity, is what we are concerned with tonight, here and now. This is absolutely vital for the world to be saved. So, and it's happening, we are here now, this is part of it. So yes, I believe, the answer is, I believe the world can be free of those things. And it will be, whether that is already, I know that evolutionary progress does not necessarily happen in a straight line. That doesn't go like that. It tends to go in kind of loops where you have periods of regression. And then you go. So, whether we are going straight from here to the next stage of awakening, or whether we go through a regressive stage, ultimately it's fine either way. But what is happening here is vital, even if there is a regressive stage before you reach the next one. No gain in consciousness for humanity is ever lost. This would then be the absolute seed form for which is going to sprout and flower when the planet is ready for it. That's just a little speculation.
Just to elaborate a little bit on that, so you hear it again in a slightly different way. What Eckhart said, he didn't mention any form of activism, peace activism, feminism, racial equality. He didn't say any of that. He said the only solution is waking up to the transcendent self. So we've been through all those stages of growth. I've been an angry peace activist myself, which is a paradox, isn't it? To be an angry peace activist. So this is an important point. Moral outrage is still rage. And by being morally outraged, you add to the rage. If consciousness is our collective awareness, then activism is not going to help in the long run.